Welcome to The Collective, where every conversation ignites a new perspective. Join us as we delve into the journeys of remarkable individuals, explore the art of growth, resilience, and the power of a shared mission as we strive to be better together.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Gold Mine. We have another fantastic show for you planned out today. Tyler, I have not heard from, but hopefully he will be joining us shortly. If not, we always have Sean and I to just sit around and chat, which is always a good way to go. But while I am looking forward to a good chat, you should be looking forward to the rest of the show. Like the show, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, do all that good stuff, get your emails when we go live, which is, of course, Wednesdays for The Gold Mine and Fridays for The Collective. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, anything at all throughout the show, by all means, put them up in the comment section. We can hit those anytime throughout. And then also, if you haven't already, make sure you are linked into the newsletter, the reinforcement loop. That way you can stay in the loop with everything that we do, as well as get some extra little tidbits from Sean on the way. Now, look at that. John Minari jumping in right away. Morning, team. Good to see you, John. So we're waiting for Tyler here, but I've been wanting to hear all about Pegasus. So let's hear it, Sean. Tell us about Pegasus.
All right, here we go. So interestingly enough, like registration the day before the actual Roto one started, I just showed up at registration, and I'd barely got on the dirt, and Gavin Lee walked straight up to me. You know Gavin Lee, he's a lunatic. Anyway, he walked straight over and he said, "Hey, you ducked me last year. We were supposed to hang out more. Come with me." I'm like, "Come where?" And he says, just follow me. You got half an hour. It's like, dude, I don't got any time. Okay, just give me a few minutes. Come on over here. And so he walks me over to his truck, and then he starts his truck. He said, "Just get in. I just want to take you down to a hangar and show you something." So head down to the hangar. We get to the hangar, and he says, "Okay, now you got to face away from the hangar. You got to put your back to the hangar. I'm going to do a grand reveal." I was like, what is even going on? This is not going to be half an hour. And so he slides back the hangar, and he's got this unbelievable plane. It's called a Little Red Rocket. Did you see photos of it? You're all muted, so I can't hear what you're saying. Doesn't much matter.
I did see it, yes, and okay. Apologies. Tyler just jumped in.
Oh, fantastic. He's saving my bacon.
Exactly.
Hey, guys.
Tyler, what's up, buddy? Why don't you give us a quick little 10 to 15 seconds? Who are you? Where you come from? All that good stuff. We can get right into the conversation, and that way you don't have to worry about the code or anything like that.
Yeah. Here, Tyler Gray at the front door. So my background, military staff, Ranger Battalion for half my career, and then Army Special Missions Unit for the last half, and very lucky to have been able to do what I did. I feel very fortunate to have had that experience, and I got medically retired after I got hurt in Iraq, and it speaking of the theme of this episode, it really, as bad as that situation was at the time, in hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced me to confront it destroyed the false character that I had created, and forced me to kind of actually find myself, which is something that I never did. So ultimately, the worst day of my life or career turned out to be the best. So that's
I love it.
30-second version.
Nice. I love it. That is and that's one heck of an intro, I gotta say. And Sean worked with you worked with the D-Boys way back in the day, right? Yeah. And so I'm wondering, just right off the bat, is that a prevalent thing from special operations? Have you guys seen that a lot, where people either get injured or, say, pulled from a team or something like that, and have a really sheer crisis of personality, of identity, I should say? What do you think, Ty?
Well, so I don't think, the way you described it, you described it in relation to injury. And I think the problem has nothing to do with injury. I think it's a problem whether someone ETSs, whether they retire, or whether they get out for medical or another issue. The identity crisis is an issue that I've seen I would go as far to say there are few that I haven't seen it in, if any. So I think it is a very common issue, and I have way more thoughts on it, on where it comes from. But I think it is a very common issue, whether you were, physically injured or not, in my experience.
Yeah, I'm tracking you on that one. I was just wondering if, because I've seen a lot of military people have struggle with it after their time in, but I've also seen a lot of people struggle with it outside of the military, like people who work in a particular career for 20, 30 years and then they don't have anything. And I'm wondering, I was just thinking about the, I look at special operations people as like kind of the same, but more so as everybody else. So I was wondering about the injury portion of it, but that makes sense.
Yeah. So the way I would explain it is that, and really, ironically, what you're talking about right now is a major part of what my book is about. But to your point, the identity crisis, let's just call it that, is really not specific or special to special operations. It's not specific to military. It's not even specific to first responders, nor professional athletes, nor CEOs, nor anything. It really comes from a core issue, fundamental issue that I can go into. And once you understand that initial issue and where it really comes from, sorry, you'll see why it applies to so many. I'm going to go ahead and sit down here now that we're in. Thanks, babe. Okay. All right. It applies, to many people that have a certain experience early on. Not just it's really, in my opinion, it's really the identity crisis has nothing to do with the job. It has to do with something else, which is another factor I go into in the book.
I'm digging it. Sean, you got any thoughts on any of this?
I do, and I agree with the impact of the identity crisis. And I think something that you said is that you've rarely met anyone who doesn't struggle with the identity crisis, specifically when they're coming out of more intense experiences. But for sure, there are people out there that don't experience the identity crisis yet. They're going to experience it in the future. And so, like, there's really, it's binary, in my opinion. They're either waiting for it to come down the pipeline. They don't even know what that looks like yet, or they've gone through it. And so, we're talking about the space in between those two things to some degree. So I do believe that there's a boatload of people out there that are going to be facing that identity crisis next week, next month, next year, next decade. It's inevitable. It just really is a matter of how long they've been in an intense environment, whatever that means to them.
Go ahead, Doug.
To that point, in my experience, it's usually about, and everyone's different, but in my experience, it's about 1 to 3 years is what I've generally seen. For the first year, people are still carrying that job. It just feels like a long break, like a long leave. But after about a year-ish, and then up to about 3 years, at least, again, in my experience, that's when I've personally seen most people go through it. But I want to throw this out there because I feel very strongly about what I'm about to say, and I think it can help a lot of people. So for most people would say, I got out or stopped whatever job it is, career, and then I had an identity crisis, or when I left the job, left the career, I lost, my identity. It's a very common thing people to say. And I said it about myself for years and years and years. And it was several years ago that I realized something. I looked at it differently. And then when I looked at it differently, it changed my entire perspective and it helped me out a lot. So hopefully this can help out others. I don't think we lost our identity when we left the job or the job ended. I don't think we ever had a strong one to begin with. And here's why. If you had a strong, independent identity to begin with, the job could have never become your identity. And I'll take a Pepsi challenge on that with anyone. If the job became your identity,
I don't think it's possible unless you didn't have a strong enough identity separate from that job to begin with. So the problem isn't that we lost an identity. I believe the problem is that we never really had an authentic, true, strong, independent one to begin with. So when we identify with who we are by what we do and we no longer do that, who are we? So for me, when that clicked in my head and I stopped thinking that I had lost it, it kind of in a weird way freed me up to go, oh no, I never had it. I'm going to go find who I am, who I always was outside of that job. And I'm going to become that. And that helped me greatly. Rather than looking at it as something lost, I looked at it as something that I needed to find to begin with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm tracking 100%. I wrote down find who I am because I think a lot of people turn to the career, whatever it is, to do that to begin with. Like, especially at a young age when you're 17, 18 years old and you're, I got to go find who I'm going to become. And then they interpret whatever that job is as that identity. It's a great point. Operation Trauma Recovery jumped in on the Instagram side. Good to see you, buddy. He says identity versus role is an important distinction to learn. And that is exactly what you're talking about. Dead on. Sean, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure. So what Tyler just said is literally what I've said for hundreds of podcasts. And it's literally how I've tried to run my life. And so I'm in my 10th career right now, still trying to figure out who I am. And I love it. And I don't care what's around the corner because the previous 9 careers taught me how to see around the corner. And so I'm all about what you just said through the actions of my life. I'm in my 60s now, and I'm looking forward to seeing where podcasting goes, which, is its own chaotic journey, as it were. But I do love to reference your book, generally speaking, and I haven't seen it. I don't really know the full premise of it, but I do know it revolves around chaos. And I do love chaos myself. But I did see in a recent, and I'm not going to challenge you with this. I love an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So I saw in a recent clip of you on social media, and I don't know where I saw it because I only just started kind of closely reconning you in the last 24 hours because Chance told me you're on the show.
Yeah.
And so in a clip, you'd said that you were sort of brought up in the idea of thriving in chaos, and chaos is the antithesis of structure. And so, this interplay between structure and chaos, and I think you loosely inferred that, you're not a structure guy, you're a chaos guy, if I'm getting it loosely right. And I kind of want to I've got a bit of a contention on that with you. I just, I want you to clarify it maybe.
Yeah. So, clips are dangerous.
I know. I'm sorry.
No. It's just, they are what they are.
Yeah.
A lot of people, if anyone's watching or listening right now and has never done a podcast, everything is in context. So when, if you watch a clip of anyone and you're like, I don't know about that, it's tough because the amount of times clips have been posted of things that I've said, and it's like, and people take it certain ways, it's because it's usually out of context. So like that one, again, it's a little out of context. And what I was really meaning by that is that, so first of all, the chaos is a whole other thing, but the better way to say it is that for a lot of people, we are given structure in the military, right? You join the military, they go, here's structure. And people are like, oh, the military is so tough. Yeah, things are tough about it. But the one thing the military does very well, I don't care what the job is, I don't care what the mission is, there's a task, condition, and standard, right? There's a structure. You want to go to this special operations unit? Great. Here's the task, condition, and standard, right? Even places where you don't exactly know the standard, at least you know how to get to the point where you can try, I guess, for lack of a better term. So there's a very daily, massive structure that the military gives you. And then one day we leave, and now that structure is gone. And so for me, what I was trying to say, the chaos is a whole nother conversation. What I was trying to say is that for me, I do very well within a structure. I do very well within it, but it's difficult for me to create it on my own. And I think the reason for that is this chaotic baseline, but it's kind of a separate conversation. And really, you'd have to have that conversation to understand the second part of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm tracking you exactly. And that's generally what I thought. And so the reason I actually raised that is because it is unfair how clips can be taken out of context, because
Yeah.
I mean, we understand that fully. But I appreciate how you refined your answer with a bit more granularity, but actually took the opportunity to kind of let everyone know that like context is king when it comes to these kind of things. So
yeah, it's rough.
thanks for that.
It's a rough thing. But that being said, too, you know, it's like I always say, I love the worst thing that you can do is there's a million things that I say that, you know, I'm old enough, and you guys are probably the same now at the age to where I've realized now that there's almost nothing that can't be counter argued. You know, no matter what you say, somebody can take that and go, okay, yeah, but, and flip it. And the reality is now I used to go, that's wrong, that's right, that's black, that's white. And now I look at it and go, you know, there's a lot of things where usually the counter, almost every truth has an opposite counter that's also true. And it's all situationally dependent. And, you know, so it's very hard. Anything I put out, I always say too, like, you could also counter anything I say is wrong, and you'd probably be right. You know, it's my opinion in reference to that at the time, in reference to the situation and the circumstances. Other than that, everything's ebb and flowing and, you know, changing all the time. So, you know, it's, I love it.
That's the way it should be.
I love a good conversation about anything, because nothing is a hard truth as far as I'm concerned. Everything's open for change and discussion, you know.
And there should be a little bit of friction in the conversation as well, I believe, in order to draw out the wisdom in it. I mean, if it's smooth sailing during the entire conversation, there just isn't enough tension or friction to kind of wake someone up to maybe think a little bit deeper, a little bit faster, or get in the game, you know, in a sense. And I'm not talking about being mean-spirited.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I think there's got to be a little bit of back and forth that has a not edgy, but is like, oh, I see, we're having a good conversation now.
Yeah, you're. I mean, I used to do this all the time. I used to sometimes get in conversations where I would take an opposite opinion of even my own opinion.
I do it all the time.
just to like you said, kind of flesh out a deeper level of thinking. Like if there was something that somebody said, but I realized that they don't really know why they believe that, I'll take the opposite and kind of push it to try and get them to go, oh, to understand their own position, you know, better than maybe just regurgitating someone else's. So I'm all about that. And then lastly,
good man.
Working in entertainment, you know, the most boring movie you could ever watch is a movie that has no conflict. Conflict is, you know, Game of Thrones is awesome because there's not just conflict in the episode, there's conflict in literally every single scene in the episode. And that's why it's, you know, so amazing, because it's interesting to us. But yeah, the chaos conversation, I'd love to talk to you guys about that, because that's kind of my bread and butter. It's what the book is about. And I feel, to contradict, not ironically, what I just said, I feel very strongly about kind of the truth of what the book is about. And I think it really has the opportunity to change people's current understanding of why they may be doing and acting the way they are. And I think it can help the community to a great deal. So I'm very passionate about it.
And now I don't usually jump all over Chance's toes, because it like Chance likes to shape the show, and I get it, but I got to ask you this question. Yeah. So, what was it? Was it one thing? Was it several things? Did you get struck by lightning? Did you see a sparrow land on a piece of grass? What was it that made you flip that switch of, I got to do this?
It's a great question. First, secondly, I would say the latter answer. It was a series of, I don't know if I would say small, maybe a series of median things. But it was definitely a series. You know, there was big things big aha moments where I was like, oh my God, this is huge. But the thing that made me write the book, it was two things. One was when I went to Warriors Heart. So I went to Warriors Heart, which is a rehab facility. And there was a major piece there that was like It was an aha moment. But the book, quite frankly, the push for the book, let me back up. I'd been writing the book for 15 years, right? But the moment that I was like, oh my God, I got to get this out there, really was when I went on the Sean Ryan show. And I honestly, man, I had no idea about the Sean Ryan show. I didn't know who Sean was before I went on it. I knew nothing. I'm not very good at that. I don't do research. People ask me to go on a podcast. And I go, sure, I'm in. You know, it's just me.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, let's have the conversation, dude. I don't care if you got 1 million people watching or 10 people watching. I want to get this message out there. So I showed up, didn't know anything, didn't know what he was going to ask me. And he just, it was kind of like, hey, what's the story of your life was kind of our conversation. And I am not joking. I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages from people. Obviously, he's got a very big platform. After the fact, I learned it after I went on it. And so, but so many people said, hey, man, dude, when you're talking about your childhood or this, it was like you were telling my life story. I heard that exact, and I mean exact, I've got screenshots. The exact same phrase was said dozens of times. And to the point where I went, man, if everyone is saying that their stories are similar, I didn't realize it. I don't think they realize it. They're not getting all these messages. I am. So now I'm the person that knows that this template is all of us, but none of us know it. So now it's on me. I've got to put this out, and I've got to let all of us know how similar our stories are, because we think we're different, but we're not. And so that was really the key, but there was a lot of smaller moments, really.
Bam. I love it. This is fantastic. And the funny thing is, to step back here, earlier when you said that sometimes you'll take the opposite side of your own opinion, that is Sean's entire job on this show. He is the pot stirrer, and there's been times where he has actively taken a stance that I know he is absolutely against, and it's such a great thing. I just want to one quick comment here on the Instagram side. Salty Jinx jumped in here. He said, it's a wicked message, and I still go back to that podcast and recommend it to people. So it's making a difference, man. Sean, you got any other questions or thoughts?
No, I don't know how we're going to get back to the topic, because I'm just all about like, how deep can we go? So maybe
let's
Chance
drag
us in the right direction.
Yeah,
hey, come on.
I'm down to dive in. I think the concept of chaos is great.
Yeah, we can get as weird as you guys want. Let's get weird.
Okay, well, let me ask you this one question, because I think it pertains to what we're talking about. And it is, what does it take to consciously let go of an identity? And this is where, because I know from my experience, it took, to Sean's question, it took a lot of little things for me. A lot of little patterns had to line up where I went, oh. And then everything fell in line. I was like, okay, that's where I'm going. And I'm wondering for you, what did it take to either make that recognition within yourself and be like, man, I didn't have an identity first, or to then let go of the old identity to begin with? What do you think?
I mean, that's a tough one. I think it's several things. One, I think I'll just say the word time. I think it's time, because if you really look at all this, what you think of something, right now versus what you'll think of it in 6 months versus a year is completely different. So I think time, you just have to get some hindsight, in my opinion. But the other thing that I think, and you said this very critically, and you said the word conscious. And I think that's an important piece, because, and we'll get into this later, but the conflict between what we think consciously and what we are programmed with, for lack of a better word, subconsciously, are largely, I will make the argument, at odds. And so I think to really let go of that identity, one of the biggest things I try and tell people is stop the mentality of trying to get back to what you were and who you were. I hear that all the time. And by the way, I said it to myself literally for years. If I could just get back to who I was then, if I could just get back to blank to blank. And the reality is, not only can you not get back to it, because that's impossible. But in addition, you can't get back to fucking something you never were. And that's the mistake that I think we're all making, is we're trying to get back not to an identity, but to a false identity. We're trying to get back to a character we created. We're trying to get back to an identity that was given to us, not one that we created for ourselves. And once you accept all of that truth, which is hard to accept, but once you finally accept it, you'll be ready to move forward with forging a new one, in my opinion.
Love that. We are going to watch the language, though. We don't swear on the show, so
It's
all good. Sean, you got any thoughts?
I just thought he got all of the swearing out right at the start of the show, so
I thought so too.
I thought we were going to be good to go.
Sorry,
No?
guys. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's all good.
I'll be conscious. Yeah. I need a button like what is it? 4 seconds.
That's right. That's right. Well, you'll be pulled right out of the show.
Yeah, it's like.
So I do agree with all of that pretty much, and I got a quick question for you though to consider, because I'm now about in my 10th career, and those careers are all extremely diverse. It started in the Canadian Armed Forces, but then I've gone in a variety of different ways, pursuing myself, trying to understand truly who I am in a variety of modalities, as it were. So this is what I've found. Now, you might not have done enough iterations moving from identity to identity to identity. I'm in my 10th identity. Let's just call it that. I've found that as I iterate into the next evolution, that the liminal space, the gap or the delta between those two positions gets smaller and smaller, or shorter, or easier to move through, as it were. And so, from my 8th career to my 9th career, I managed to morph into that next career much faster than my first career to my second career. And that's a learned process, by the way. But I just want to throw it out there that certainly for me, the more you do this, like any skill, the easier it gets. Now, have you heard that from anyone else, or have you experienced that yourself?
Well, so for me, what I landed on is, if you look at, again, as I said, the job, the military had a job, and that job, they gave you an identity. And let's be clear, the military doesn't just give you an identity. They try and strip any identity away that you did have and give you a new one. So it is intentional. But for me, what I realized was, once I realized I had no true identity, then it became clear to me that I didn't want my identity to be tied to a job or a career. And so I have worked very hard on, finding who I was outside of what I do. And so for me now, I don't really associate who I am with anything, career wise or job wise. I identify myself, who I am, more as a series of characteristics and attributes rather than actions, if that makes sense. And so I haven't really thought about it in that way. I haven't really thought about it in that way. But I think, again, it's different. I mean, I've had a couple career changes, with Hollywood, military, things like that. But I think once I figured out to try and separate it, it really hasn't come up in that regard for me, if that makes sense.
I do have a follow-on question. It's related, but it's a bit tangentially different. So, do you spend much time in your past? Do you think about the past a lot? Or maybe I'm going to put a finer point to it, because this is what I experience. To some degree, I've got a bit of the old TBI. And so my past recollection is faulty at best. But what I do well is I exist in the moment, in the now. So right now, this is where I love to be. I'm not too concerned about the future or the past. I just love this. And so I don't spend much time in my past, which allows me to spend way more time in the present. Do you do the same thing, or how does that work for you?
No, I mean, I wish that I could do that more. Well, first of all, I've been diagnosed with TBI. What does that exactly mean? Yeah, it is what it is. They can't tell you. That being said, I have a very good past memory, which is good and bad. I definitely, for many years, had a tendency to live in the past, and that was one of the things I really had to change. And it kind of, when it did change, it was like, okay, now I'm not as much in the past, and unfortunately, it like swung to the future rather than sitting in the now. So that's something I'm working on, living more in the present. Everyone's different, as you said earlier. And so for me, being present is something that I really actively work on, because I have a tendency to jump pretty much probably more to the future now than the past. And there's, I think, reasons for, those of us that do that, where it comes from. I think it's a protection mechanism. But I definitely am learning more to live in the present.
That is a skill. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, there are ways that you can to learn how to do that, obviously, and you can apply a lot of things, especially from your guys' training within the community. You guys get to you can pull a lot of information from those training reps and apply them to living in the moment. It's just understanding how to do that.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of comments here I just want to touch on real quick. Salty Jinx jumped right back in. He said, I referenced the firefighter story and running into danger as an example for people. So I'm looking, I want to hear about a firefighter story, like a good story.
Yeah.
And then we got Operation Trauma Recovery jumps in here. He says it takes understanding how to let it go, the conscious release of an identity. 100%. Salty Jinx jumps in again, says the deliberate act of seeking what you want to be. Once you see who and where you are, you never go back. You evolve forward to something new. But seeing who and where you are is the hardest part. And I wanted to touch on this a little bit. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that before we jump into anything else. Trey, what do you got? Or Taylor,
Well,
sorry, not Trey.
Yeah, Trey's a cool name. I'll take it. No, to what he. Sorry, say the quote again, because it just.
So the deliberate act of seeking what you want to be. Once you see who you are, who and where you are, you never go back. You evolve forward to something new. But seeing who and where you are is the hardest part.
No, sorry. What was the second thing?
You evolve forward to something new. You never go back.
No, I thought he had a new comment. Didn't he have two?
He did. The first one was referencing the firefighter story.
Oh yeah, what was the second one? Jumping forward. Something new.
The deliberate act of seeking what you want to be. Once you see who and where you are, you never go back. You evolve forward to something new.
Okay, so I think to that point, one thing, and I say this in the book, but I think it's absolutely critical, is most people, in my opinion, are held up. We look at the lies of others as so insidious, and I would argue that the lies we tell ourselves are infinitely more destructive than the lies others tell us. And to really know where you are, you really have to learn how to call bullshit on yourself. Oh, sorry, God, I'm sorry, guys, my bad. Call BS on yourself, because you really have to. So many people are, and we all come across it, but so many people are living in this, in their own image rather than their own reality. And it really takes accepting the hard truths about yourself and seeing yourself as you really are, not as you want others to see you. Because you have to have a clear assessment of where you truly are to steer where you want to go. And I think that's a hard issue for a lot of people, anyway, in my opinion.
I love it. It's funny because I had, my dad used to say this many years ago, and he was like, I'll never be lost because I know exactly where I am. I'm right here. And I always thought it was like a whatever, flippant kind of statement. But it's when you actually stop and really think about it, it's actually quite a great mentality to have. But Sean, you got any thoughts on Salty's comment?
Yeah, for sure. So that was good advice from your dad, but that was geographical advice, as it were, grounding yourself and all of that good stuff. But I just want to throw out that little twist, and that is Do you know who you are inside in your internal world? You know where your feet are, but you know where your internal feet are. And that's often the problem. And so, the internal world is much larger aspect of our existence than most people understand. We tend to use the external world as a proxy to understand who we are, and we spend far less time in our internal world understanding who we are. And therein lies the dilemma. We view ourselves through the things that are beyond our arm's distance, but the thing that is right inside of us, we have no relationship with. Now, I'm not going to say that has to take up a structure as, to a loose play on words, use a structure to create your understanding of your internal world. I don't think anyone has to box their internal world into a label or a definition. It's a free-flowing thing. It's an organic thing. You're supposed to let it unfold, and you're supposed to enjoy the journey. And so the internal world, I feel, is something that is underestimated, undervalued, and overlooked. And so spend your time there if you're going to spend your time anywhere. It's good to know where your feet are on the dirt. And as I said to someone, and just another little side tangent here, as I said to someone on the drop zone just last week, they were kind of an angry person. And I don't mean like, crazy angry. I mean, they were just an underlying sizzle to them. And I looked him square in the eye and I said, hey, dude, here's the deal. If you're angry, you're unhealthy. Now, I'm not talking about whether you can do burpees or chin-ups. I'm talking about you're unhealthy. And it's either your external world because you can't do push-ups, or it's your internal world because you can't love yourself. And so if you're an angry person, you're an unhealthy person, either externally or internally. And so as a metric or as a general rule of thumb, if you're looking to see where you're standing right now, maybe look at your feet, but also look at yourself inside and see if you're hanging on to something that you don't need to hang on to.
Tyler, what do you got?
I mean, to that point, I will go on a limb and say there's nothing. What Sean's, it is impossible, in my opinion. It's impossible to overstate the importance of the subconscious or the inside, as Sean's. It's impossible. However much I could say it's important, it would mean nothing to compared to how important it actually is. And the problem is it's not that easy, and it's very difficult, and it takes a lot of introspection, or for some people more, because it's very, and not to get into the science of it, but it's to a large degree inaccessible. It's not inaccessible, but that's a way to say it. It's not inaccessible, but it's definitely not easily accessible, because if it was, then we would have a better understanding. But I'm going to go on a limb and say, for the vast majority of people that haven't done serious, deep internal work, I'm going to bet money that the programming that you have in your subconscious that is guiding almost every decision in your entire life, you don't even know what it is. It was happening to me. Once I figured out what it was, it blew my mind apart. It changed my entire life. But for 40-something years, I was programmed a certain way, and it was a major piece of every decision, every single decision I made. And I didn't really choose the programming, and I wasn't aware that it was there. And it was defining my life. And I'm going to say that for most people, the exact same thing is happening to them. And until you go in there and look at the programming, understand what it is, evaluate it, and work at changing it, it's going to continue to just make decisions for you. And you're going to be wholly aware that it's actually operating subconsciously in the silence in every decision you make.
But it's so much easier to be a victim. Come on now.
That's fair. I can't argue with that. I'm out.
And that's the end of the podcast. No, but I mean, to you guys' point is that you're absolutely right. It is unimaginably important to do the internal work and to not just that. This was a point I made last week on a podcast Sean and I were doing. The motto of JTF2 is facta non verba, right? Deeds, not words. And that's the plural, deeds, not words. So it's not just that you do one thing. It's not just that you work on yourself once and be like, oh, okay, now I'm the end all be all, good to go, happy to help. It is every day, all day long, and like to Sean's point, with any skill, it gets easier. You get more efficient with it. You can start to engage in those moments a little bit easier over time. But yeah, man, it is so it's so hard to not just allow that programming to allow. It's almost like sitting in a river, right? You just got to pick your feet up. Current will take you. But walking upriver, it's hard. But that's usually where all the good stuff is. It's where the waterfall is, that's for sure. Sean, you got any thoughts on any of this?
I do. And so I know that this is not what Tyler was suggesting. It's just that we're talking fast and moving across a variety of different topics. But the programming that we all have, whether that comes through childhood trauma or your first career, maybe in the military or whatever the case is, wherever it comes from, however you pick up your programming, and listen, everyone's picking up programming on the regular. You absorb it, you self-choose it. And if you didn't like specifically put yourself in that position and somehow magically, we'll call it through luck, got in a position, however you want to term it, it's all on you. It's the programming is constantly hitting you every single second. It's what you do with it. And so I don't want anyone to think that if you go through some programming and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you realize, wow, I've been programmed. Now what do I do? You don't have to kibosh. You don't have to destroy all of that programming. That actually isn't your job. You're not there to like reconfigure it or destructively. You're there to take it and use it moving into the future or currently in your present. So all of your programming that you've got like right this second, that body of work, for lack of a better term, start using it. Don't start being a victim to it. The programming is yours to shape, and you can shape it left or right or up or down. That's completely up to you. But the moment that you realize that whatever programming you've got is yours to play with, to work with, to shape, to create, that's what you got to start accepting. And as you move forward, as you play with your programming in a positive fashion, you'll find that you can use it as quite an effective tool. It can be quite efficient as you move into the future. You've just got to understand that that's what you're doing. You are using your programming in a positive, constructive way. You'll go much further the moment that you start wielding it consciously rather than being victim to it unconsciously.
Bam. Tyler, you got any thoughts?
I'll just say something. He said this, but I'll say the term that I like to use is, it's not your fault, but it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. You know, whatever negative things have happened, you know, whether it's negative core beliefs, a lot, the programming, there was a lot of negative programming in my head. It wasn't my fault, but it was my responsibility to do something with it, as he said. So, we have to take responsibility over everything, because if you don't take responsibility, then you don't have the ability to change it. If you don't take personal responsibility, you're putting the ability to change it outside yourself, and that basically means it's out of your control. And so we have to keep control, change what we can, and the only way to do that is to take responsibility for everything that's ever happened to you. And it doesn't matter if it's your fault or not; it's on you to do something with it and move yourself forward.
I love that. This is a beautiful point, and I have a question kind of on this, and it's.
Oh, sorry, Chad.
What do you got, Sean?
I just got to throw on not an extra layer, but just another log on the fire, as it were, and that is, hey, you got to do it for yourself, but you got to do it for all of those around you. Like, you got to act as a representation of how to do things right. Because there's a bunch of people that are 1 step behind you, 10 steps behind you, whatever the case is, that are looking to you, looking to us, looking to everyone around them for help, for the right way to do it, for the correct direction. So, you got to do it right for yourself, but you got to do it right for the team so that everyone's raising that boat.
I totally agree on that one. And the interesting thing is also that this is something you learn as a parent really quickly, is the fact that, they're always watching. And I think I had always separated everyone else in the world and my kids. Like I always recognize that my kids are always watching, so I'm trying to maintain a certain person for them. But also the people out on the street are watching. They're the people that are like, when you put the cart away in the shopping mall or in the parking lot, other people are watching that. Kids are watching that. Other people's kids are watching that. And that's those little things that start to build a healthy society, is when people start to look at those and go, yep, that is the right thing to do. And they do it the same thing. But I have a question on this space in between like understanding that, I'm at fault for my own things. I need to take responsibility, and actually doing it. So the space between that, like, yep, I need to fix this, and then taking the action, it's pretty uncomfortable for most people. And I think that's why most people retreat from it, right? They go, oh, I need to fix this, but then don't, because the action is hard. How do we bridge that gap for people? How do we show others how to do that better? What do you got, Ty?
Well, in my opinion, this kind of brings up a more complicated subject in my mind, and Sean brought it up earlier. But what my book is at its core about is self-worth. And I'm going to go on a limb here. I don't care if people agree or not. I am very confident in this. I think the core disease in the veteran and first responder community is self-worth. I think that is the core fundamental issue that no one wants to talk about. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say no one wants to talk about it. I don't think people, I think it's unknown, and that's why it's not talked about. I don't think it's something people don't want to talk about. I just think no one knows. When I figured it out about myself, as I said, that self-worth, that lack of self-worth, the fact that I didn't love myself, but love is like, love, I don't love myself. I didn't value myself in any way, not even a little bit. And that is, in my opinion, fundamentally bigger than just not loving yourselves. But that to me is a core issue. And if you don't solve the core issue of worth, then subconsciously, then you're not going to take conscious action to do other fixes, and you're not going to realize why you aren't taking action. Does that make sense?
I love that. I'm tracking that. I was writing down value as you were talking. Then you said value. I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Sean, you got any points on this?
So I do think that there's a lot of conversations out there on self-worth. It's just that they're not calling it self-worth. They're using different terms, and they're actually not. They're a diluted conversation. So the most potent conversation of all is by using the correct terminology, which is self-worth. And so I am in full alignment with that is probably the central issue to nearly every single veteran struggle as they move from that life into a new life. And that liminal space, that transitional phase, that misunderstanding of their own sense of self-worth will carry forward into the future till the day they die. And they will struggle with it. And if we don't start talking about self-worth as the potent conversation, then really we're just clover leafing the obstacle rather than frickin' stabbing it in the neck with a bayonet.
I said the term I like to use is, if we don't deal with self-worth, we're just polishing the brass on the Titanic. You know what I mean? We're scrubbing the decks, but dude, it's all going down, right? We're building a major, a Dubai skyscraper on quicksand, So I couldn't agree more with what Sean said. And I knew we were going to agree on that because he mentioned self-worth earlier. I mean, it is such a critical issue. But again, it's an issue that dwells in the subconscious. And most of us are not consciously aware about our lack of self-worth. And why is it so pronounced when we leave those jobs? Simple. It's because those jobs gave us worth. When you have no internal sense of worth, you seek worth externally. And so the jobs for us were an external source of worth. we're heroized, we're doing all these different things. We feel great about ourselves because we've got this external trophy to point to. See what I do? I have worth. And then when the job is over, that trophy's gone, it's off the shelf. And now your worth, along with your identity, along with your purpose, along with your group of friends, I could go on, is gone. And again, I'm just going to throw this out here, but nothing, not a single thing I just said has anything to do with PTSD. Nothing. Look up the definition of PTSD. None of those parts that we know are issues are in PTSD. And yet we're being told PTSD is our sole problem. And that's why it is not being fixed.
I think this goes into not just the self-worth topic, but in terms of, what's not being fixed with the VA and the military concept is the fact that the military and Veterans Affairs and all this stuff likes a box to check. They want something that they can say, yep, this is what the problem is. Here's the fix. As you stated earlier, right? That's what the military does. It gives you task set standards. Boom, here you go. The problem is that that's not, it doesn't work like that in real life.
Yeah, it does.
Especially, it does?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know why? Because humans like check boxes. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
When someone's struggling, there's that checkbox. That's what you are. That's what I am. I guess that's what I'll always be. That's the label. Handing out labels. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're right.
I know I am. And so the idea being that, society is on a pretty regular program. Like the VA and all of these various organizations that are handing out labels. It's because humans like labels. We like boxes and we'll accept them unless you decide not to accept them. And that's literally what the entire core of this conversation has been. If you have some sort of self-worth, if you have some sort of self-identity, if you want to move forward into the future, you got to start doing it now in the present. And that requires you to take ownership of your own direction. And the idea being that if someone hands you a label and you nod and say, well, I guess I do have PTSD. Now what? Is that it? I don't accept that. You start moving forward. You figure out a way to either work with it, work through it, work around it, but you improve your lot in life. And often that has little to do with the external world and mostly to do with the internal world. And so that's hard work, man. You can easily check a box called PTSD and feel like, okay, now I'm in a game. But until you start erasing that checkbox, you're static. You're stuck in a program, not of perhaps your own making, but of your own acceptance. And so I don't accept these things. I don't accept labels, and I don't accept a programmed life. Who I am, I've yet to discover, but this is what I do know for sure. I'll freaking forge my own way in a way that I like. And however it turns out in the future, I can look backwards and realize that I wasn't programmed by it. I was doing the programming. And I think that's an important thing to chew on.
I love it. Tyler, what do you got?
It's kind of hilarious to me what he just said, because, in my book, you'll see how much of what you just said is exactly my story. So, 2000, I don't know, 10-ish, give or take. I was, I'd been in surgeries for years at that point. And finally, I was like, I wasn't doing good. Went to the VA, went to other mental health professionals. And, I was honest, told them how I felt. And they all told me I had PTSD. And I said, okay, great. What's PTSD? Obviously, I'd heard, I'm not, but I was like, give it to me clinically. Give me a lot of info. And they told me, and I went, okay, no, that doesn't fit how I feel. And the woman in particular was going, well, I think you're in denial. I think it's this, talking about the night I got injured. And I'm like, I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me. And she's like, well, I think you've got some repressed trauma. And I said, no, I don't. I'm like, I'm telling you, like, I don't care about it. I don't have nightmares. I mean, I'm not happy about it, but I don't care. If you want to talk about something that messed me up, well, let's talk about my girlfriend at the time cheating on me. That messed me up. I have nightmares about it every night, etc.
And finally, she's like, well, it's PTSD. And I finally said, you know what? Do you have PTSD? Have you ever had PTSD? And she goes, no. And I go, well, then what the hell do you know about it? You know what you've read, you know what you've studied, but you've already said that you don't have any personal experience in it. So why am I listening to you? And I left the office. I've never went back to the VA, by the way. And I set on to your point, Sean, a 15-year quest to come up with something that fit the way I felt. I didn't think it would take 15 years, but it did. And I came up with a theory that fits the way I felt. And I don't care what the mental health community says. I don't care what the doctors say, PhDs. It means nothing to me. I know it's right. It fits how I feel. It fits how a lot of us feel. And I'm going to keep pushing this message until the conversation changes on what our specific afflictions are. And it's on us now, as you said, Sean, to create our own labels and no longer be labeled.
Bam. I love it. This is fantastic. I got a comment here. Tom Lennon jumped in here and said, he who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers the city. And I could not agree more. That is a beautiful point. And we are just about an hour now. This conversation obviously could go for days. So don't worry. We're going to get you back on, Tyler. We're going to get deep into this. We'll spend some time on it.
Can I end with my theory and I'll throw it out there and we
Absolutely.
can next time? All right. So I'll summarize this in about a minute. So first of all, PTSD. What is PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder. Great. The first word is post. And what I realized is that post-traumatic stress disorder assumes a pre-traumatic stress baseline. That's what it assumes. PTSD is also an event-based diagnosis. Treatment options for PTSD and awareness is at an all-time high, and yet the problem with veteran and first responder suicide is getting worse, not better. To me, logically, that proves that maybe we've misdiagnosed what the actual disease is. Because if it was the problem, then with treatment and awareness at an all-time high, it should be getting better. So the firefighter story, to go back to Salty's comment, I did something, I can't go into it, I don't have enough time right now, but it's in the book. But something happened with firefighters one night, and it was weird behavior, no doubt about it. And I couldn't explain why I did what I did. And I had to come up with something that made sense to how I felt. And what I came up with is all of us, again, PTSD assumes it assumes a pre-traumatic stress baseline. And the thing that I found with all of us is that we didn't grow up in non-traumatic stress environments. We grew up in chaos. Almost all of us. I have yet to meet someone who hasn't. We grew up in chaos. Chaos was our normal. And when chaos in the environment is your normal, that becomes your homeostasis. When the environment is chaotic, your mind is calm because your brain at that time adapts and rewires itself to be calm in chaos. Conversely, when the environment is calm, the chaos goes in our minds, and we need to create chaos back into the environment to bring us back to our homeostasis or default or normal state. I call this LTSD, lack of traumatic stress disorder. I am so adapted to chaotic stress or chaos or traumatic stress, whatever you want to call it, that my brain and body and nervous system adapted to normalize that chaos or traumatic stress. And that is why if I don't have it, I feel anxious and I will do self-destructive behaviors to create the chaos to calm myself. And that is my theory on why many of us are doing why we're doing. We don't fit the PTSD diagnosis. We fit a different one that hasn't been discovered, in my opinion.
Interesting. That deserves a whole show on itself. So
I know. That's why I figured I'd throw it out there.
Throw it out there right at the end. I love it. No, and this is great because this is fantastic. I'm looking forward to the next one for sure. Sean, you got any final thoughts before we shut her down?
Yeah, I am definitely not in any form of disagreement with what you just said, pal, because I've said very similar things myself. I thrived in the past sense. I thrived in chaos, and I still appreciate it. But now I have a much better relationship with it, because while I thrived in chaos, I had to learn how to pursue the namaste of life. I had to find my yin and yang, as it were. And so through a lot of hard work and using indelicate terms like meditation and such, like I found my way. And that's a trick. You've got to find your way. And so while I do love chaos, I also love peace. And so being able to operate across the spectrum of those two things is what I truly appreciate life. I'm not looking for homeostasis right in the middle. I'm looking to move back and forth across that spectrum on an as-need basis. That's what makes me feel more like a three-dimensional human being.
Well, I love it. Go ahead,
to that point, in 20 seconds, to that point, absolutely. Once you understand, I mean, you figured that out, and then you came to terms with it, and then you figured out a way to adjust yourself to be calm, and now you can jump. You're the Wesley Snipes, the Daywalker, from Blade, where you can jump between both environments. But it took you understanding kind of that hard wiring, and then making a conscious effort to wire yourself to where you could jump between both. And once you do that, it turns from a weakness into a superpower. Because for me now, I still like chaos to a degree, but I just create it in much healthier ways than I did before, probably similar to you. So there is a way out, and we'll talk about that on the next podcast. But I think it's a subject that once you understand it, it really can give you the power to transform your life.
I could not agree more. And I don't have a lot to end off with. There's a comment here I just want to throw up that is, it goes to exactly what I think we're all talking about. And it's from Dylan. He jumped in here and said, if you're not proactive, you will be on the defense. Someone has to put the big boy pants on. I love that. Someone has to put on the big boy pants. Guess what? It's you. Just like it's me, just like it's Sean. We all got to put on the pants, and we all got to go to work. And whether that is working internally, externally, all the things, just you got to put the pants on and begin. 100%. So as we all continue to learn, build, and grow, we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks everybody for watching and being part of the collective. If this has sparked any thoughts or resonated with you, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us grow and keeps the conversation going. We'll see y'all next time.